Can anyone on Zoom hear me right now? Nona, can you let me know if you can hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, can you talk?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, talk again.
But I can't see you.
Yeah, I know. Zoom room is not working. So Nona, Wanda, mute your,
Oh, I just got off the Zoom.
oh, okay.
I want to find out why, that's all.
I don't think that this monitor has a speaker. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out a way so that. Well, so this. So the microphone doesn't work. I don't know if we're going to be able. Here, let me see if I started up my computer. If we could use that microphone. Having technical problems with Zoom. Because definitely Zoom room is not working. Don't see anything. So nobody's answering,
Well, I tried to text. First calling. You can have 14.
yes. Everybody that's on Zoom, we make it a couple of minutes late. You know, honestly, I'd be afraid to manipulate their software on the PC because.
I wouldn't try anything like that.
I could try signing out, signing back in, but.
Reboot, I did.
Oh, really?
Shut it down and turn it up again.
Reboot,
That's what I've always called the Microsoft solution.
reboot,
You know.
yes, yes, unplug it. Because I've had a problem with the dust and started the computer, I expect the bugs on top of my other big side.
There's nobody on the town staff who's responsible for making sure.
They are, but they're really short-handed right now, they're doing a great job. No. Okay, so.
Carrie did text me, she's coming over.
Harry's coming over. Okay, so we might be about 5 minutes late, tech support's on the way. I just want to see. How did I just lose that?
Seem to be is everything in this room? What's happening?
Wait a minute, I just lost it.
What?
I just lost it.
Lost? Who lost you?
Well, I lost the picture. There it is. Okay. Okay. You would never know that 40 years ago, I was inside the NASA computer room working on the CPUs.
So
You would never know that. This is shocking.
are you just turning this thing off too?
That is the problem. So we have the PC crashed. I was able to reboot the PC, but now the Zoom room is not working. Hi, Craig. The PC crashed. I was able to reboot it, but we're waiting for the Zoom room and Carrie's on her way over.
Okay.
So we'll just start about 5 minutes late.
You just hit restart, because it's not happening, you can't get to the.
The Zoom room.
Well, I was just looking at this error message.
I was able to physically reboot the PC by carving it up and down, but the Zoom room software, which is a separate piece of hardware and software, I'm retrying it and it's still not responding, and
Yeah.
I don't want to try signing out or, we did power it up and down, but
Yeah, okay, well, sound like you made a good effort.
yeah. No
I
try.
mean, in theory, Zoom is optional, right? I mean,
Yes, it is, and we will start in 5 minutes to carry us on the way, and we don't have to do it. Which is gonna be a problem.
Maybe she's on Zoom.
Well, she said she was on her way.
Okay, great.
Okay. All set, I'll be late, but I will be on Zoom as I drive there. So maybe we can get started.
We're still in transition. Yeah, I'm really glad we gone over the meeting. We did. No, it wasn't too bad. It kind of came in. I guess because
Yeah.
it was, she mentioned the top.
Yeah, is Stanford here?
Yeah, I think that, we had 15 people on Zoom. And
Yes.
I think they're.
So that it sank in.
Hi, this is Shweta from Stanford. We have a whole team online, ready to go.
Gary's gone.
Okay, you know what I can do? Do you think I should start the meeting using the microphone on my computer so I can?
Oh, when I went walking early this morning, I did live in Sequoias. I went walking early this morning, that whole little town.
Okay, so when I came in, we had this message. The PC was down. I restarted the PC, I powered the PC up and down. The PC is on. We had Zoom started, but Zoom rooms is not, and I have tried it on and off twice. I was afraid to do.
No, I totally understand.
You see her come up, that doesn't,
Oh, no, the PC is up.
even though your screen doesn't look like this.
No, it does not.
It could be because it means it's already connected to a meeting.
Do you want me to power down and then?
My
restart?
concern is if there's a way of restarting
Zoom.
the Zoom. That could be a way to kick the tires. I can also, then I can call our Coda person who could, if that doesn't work.
What do you want to do?
I would see if you can turn on your
You restart the computer?
no, before you do it, just let people know in the meeting.
Okay.
Is the microphone on? Okay, so let everyone know that we're gonna be restarting the meeting.
Okay, so we're gonna be restarting the meeting, so you're going to lose connection and you'll have to log back in. I am so sorry.
Yeah.
So now restart the computer because.
The computer's not the problem.
Not the problem.
Can you hear me now? Nona, give me a thumbs up. Can you hear me? Okay. All right, so here's the situation. We do not have Zoom room up, which means that we don't have the big microphone going, and so we're using my PC for a microphone. So we have a few people in attendance. We're waiting for the fire marshal. So we're just gonna see if we can get input from Stanford as we progress from the meeting, and it is being recorded so that anybody that hopefully listens to the meeting in the future will be able to hear all the dialogue. Does anyone have any questions about that? I know this is not optimal. I apologize.
So Jennifer, Kim is on the call.
Yes, great.
Yeah.
Oh, are we up? Oh, we're up. Oh, we're up. We're up. Carrie has saved the day. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, now it might be loud. Remember the beep? Oh, meeting passcode. Oh, yeah. Yes, there is. Okay, it might be loud. I told you. I told you. I did. Who's got their left? No, I was on.
You have to turn on this meter and,
Yeah.
Jennifer, I don't know if you can hear this, but there are 2 windows now showing for the schoolhouse.
Hi, it's Dave Cardinal. I think those of you on the call can hear me. I just want to say thanks to the fire marshal and the Stanford folks for bearing with us, because obviously this is not exactly what everybody expected, but thank you.
No worries. We're still here, David. Thank you for chiming in.
Yeah, and
Thank
I'm
you. And
Lori Duvall. I'm just going to also thank you all. I see you there, Sheena. I've met you many times before. I've seen these Stanford faces. I've seen Kim. I've seen all the wonderful, encouraging local residents and this whole team we have together to try to make everything work out. Thank you. I owe you a coffee at wherever. Where's that place on campus? I'll see you there. Okay, Sheena, I'm looking at you. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, can you guys hear us at all? On Zoom? Give
We
us.
can hear you. This is Shweta at Stanford. We can
Yes.
hear you.
Yeah, we just heard you now, but we haven't before. Can anyone else hear the schoolhouse or is it just me?
I can't hear it either. This is Nona.
I know, yeah, I'm
Hey.
getting text from someone there. Maybe MJ or somebody saying, and you can't hear Jennifer right now. And I guess the answer is no.
I don't think anyone can hear anything online.
Okay.
Okay. Well, this just sucks. So should I turn that on? So at least we have.
Let me see. Can you guys hear us now? Can you wave your hands if you can hear me?
Okay, can you hear me?
Nobody's
We
here.
can hear you, but there's an echo.
Oh,
So somebody has a mic turned on who shouldn't.
Can you hear me now? Is there still an echo? Okay. No, they can hear us now. There's no echo now.
Right. Yeah, you're good now.
So what we've had to do is we've had to turn off the Zoom room. So we will try to speak loudly into my computer microphone. And then hopefully, I apologize that you have not been able to hear the first part of the meeting. We've had the mics on and we thought you could hear. I am so embarrassed. Okay, so anyways, let me finish this that you have not heard this last part, and then we're going to move on to the Jasper Ridge pile burn. So anyways, this is a very interesting service. I could imagine CAL FIRE even using this kind of technology in the future. So I just wanted to bring that up. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about that? And it also could be rented. So you could also rent the equipment and you could train your own staff to set up the bladders. Okay. You didn't miss anything. It was fine. All right, so we are now going to move on to fire marshal updates, and we have three very distinct groups of discussions and within the fire marshal update. And again, I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties we're having. So the first subject is the Jasper Ridge pile burn. And this burn is listed in the Stanford website with information. This committee got notification a few months ago about the event. MJ sent out a great tip on the pile burn. So this is not new information, but the mayor did ask us to make sure that all the residents got all their questions answered. And we're really grateful that Stanford's here today and has patiently sat through all these technical discussions. So we're going to turn it over to Fire Marshal Giuliacci, which I think you're going to have to come sit next to me. And so Kim, why don't you give an update on this? Okay, but do you have your, she can just sit and use my mic. Can you, Yeah. Can you remember that there might be residents that, and let's turn on my video so everyone can see you. Can you remember that there might be residents that know nothing about what Stanford's doing, what a pile burn is or why it's important? So maybe you could give a brief background on why it is important and discuss the safety measures you take. And also, I know there was a ton of planning that went into this.
Hi, everyone. So first I'll start with that we had asked Stanford to come out because they would be able to answer very specific questions to the entire project. And because they are the ones who are coordinating it, we are actually just, and as far as we're concerned in the process, is we have to do with walking the site, which we did already with CAL FIRE, looking at all the piles, making sure that scratch lines are going to be in place, making sure all the safety measures are in place, evaluating the locations. So we did walk with everything. We provided our comments, CAL FIRE both and Woodside Fire provided our comments to Stanford. They've been on top of the game the entire way. We have felt really comfortable with the project that they're doing and the reasons why they're doing it. I know Sheena's on here and I know Stanford team is on here. So I think they would be able to give you more education and background as to why they're doing the pile burns. But as far as safety measures go, so all the safety measures are in place. They do have staff and crew that are going to be there. Fire department have been invited to come as far as observing goes. And I do believe some of our personnel are going to be there, but it's not so much to, we'll be there obviously in case something does go sideways. But if it does go sideways, if we weren't there, they would contact us. We've already worked out all the emergency dynamics of it and response and our access. So that's all been reviewed and it's being mapped out. And so we're very confident with, they have trained crews that are going to be there. It's not fire department personnel, but they are fire people who are trained in wildland. So we feel very confident with the work they're going to be doing. And as far as, you know, I know there's specific questions to smoke and embers, and there's really no concern, as much concern as residents would have, and partly because of how the burn is being done. And I'll let Stanford that's kind of their piece. So I'll let them go over that with you all. But just so you know, yeah, the fire department and CAL FIRE, we all have been working together throughout this whole project. So there's a lot of measurements that have been put in place as far as safety and trying to get outreach out and education to all the surrounding community members. So with that, I'll let Stanford take over on doing their presentation.
Hi, everybody. I can speak on behalf of Stanford. So my name is Sheena Sidhu. I know some of you from before, from some of the work I've done in my previous roles. I've done field reduction and forest health work throughout San Mateo County, over 1,800 acres. One of the reasons I came to Stanford is because there's an opportunity to do research on top of these fuel reduction and forest health projects that we're doing. And so what I really want to point out is that we're doing this project threefold. There's three valuable things that come with it. So we're going to be focusing on safety, of course. A lot of this work has been coming from the Stanford wildfire management plan. And I have our whole Stanford team. This is a really large team working on this. So if anybody wants to jump in to talk about that and mention any of the larger efforts that we're doing, but you know, we're focusing on safety. We're focusing on ecological benefits. We're at the preserve, so we want to make sure that we're doing fire reduction and fuel reduction in an ecologically sensitive way. And the reason I joined Stanford is because we're also doing research on top of it. And so with that, it's been this huge team that's worked on it internally. A lot of those folks are present here, and then also working closely with CAL FIRE and Woodside Fire Protection District. And to the Fire Marshal, thank you so much for your support in all of this work. It's been really nice to work together because it definitely is a community effort to make everything safer. I didn't want to speak too much. I just want to share our main objectives of this project.
If you can, Sheena, I know there's specific questions and maybe it's things that you can just address just to address the major concerns that community members may have. And if you can help explain, so one of the biggest things is how embers will be produced and how they're controlled and how do people need to worry about it? Do people need to do anything to their property to prepare in advance? Is there anything, what are the measures that are being taken?
Sure, I can answer that. So when you're doing a prescribed burn, a controlled burn, you do have a prescription, right? So there are definite specific prescription lists, like the window of opportunity to do it. So you consider for like wind, fuel moisture, weather, topography, et cetera, right? So it's only if we meet the certain conditions will the project go ahead. And so one of the reasons we chose the winter to do this is it would reduce smoke and it would reduce fire opportunities, right? As you can probably tell, if you stepped outside at all today, the ground is really wet. And so that's going to be a great opportunity to keep safety, any risks really, really low because the ground is really wet. And so if there is any protection to do, I mean, we chose this, so there's very little risk involved. And then I just point folks out to, like, if you have any, just doing defensible spaces, what everybody's doing anyways, but the burn itself is supposed to be very minimal in the burn, in the embers produced and smoke produced.
Yeah, and I can touch on that second point briefly. The material that is out there that we plan to burn that's been piled has been out there since September, October last year, and that's specifically to let it cure. So it dries out, it's been covered. And when it dries out and cures, it produces a lot less embers when it burns. So it's much cleaner burn. So that's part of the whole process, is getting it to a point where we can burn it successfully without expecting any sort of ember travel.
Yeah. Thanks, Kev.
Sheena, also from just speaking on what our burn boss had kind of lined out as far as our planning. So there also will be the crews that will be constantly patrolling the areas around the piles to take action if needed. We'll also have some additional set of eyes with our group there, as well as the researchers who are working on their research projects around the piles.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa.
Hi, everyone. This is Lucy Wicks. I'm going to just take an opportunity because I hear that you've heard a couple voices from Stanford, so I want to have us actually introduce ourselves. So my name is Lucy Wicks. I work on local government affairs along with Shweta Bhatnagar, who many of you know. Sheena's already introduced herself. Kevin, could you take a moment just to introduce yourself and the role you play in this project?
Sure. So I'm
followed by Louisa. Thank you.
Sure. I'm Kevin. I'm a senior project manager in the Department of Project Management at Stanford. I know it's a little bit redundant. My role is I'm helping to manage the overall wildfire management plan implementation, and this is obviously a crucial part of that. So I've been working with Sheena and helping her out wherever I can to kind of get this set up and ready to go, and hopefully implemented in the next few weeks here.
And Louisa?
Yeah, hi, my name is Louisa Rapport. I am the Director of Emergency Communications and Media Relations for the university. And I have the pleasure of working with this group on wildfire and wildfire management related efforts, specifically on the communications side. And because in my past life before Stanford, I worked with Santa Clara County Fire Department.
And so through the chair, we're happy to answer any other questions you have. Ms. Hammer, I'm not sure I can see now the room, but if you have any other questions for our team, hello again.
I was trying to share with the audience your faces because they can't see them because our screen is down. So we'll start with questions from our committee. Does the committee have any questions? You're just going to have to talk loud.
You think I can turn mine?
If you could repeat the question, we're having a hard time with the audio. Thank you.
We don't have a question yet. We're coming. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, no, these aren't.
It is.
Now we're getting the echo.
I turned it off.
I turned mine off. I muted.
Mute your computer speaker.
I did.
How
Let's
about
see.
now?
Okay, go.
Oh, okay. You guys can hear me? Somebody wave? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, great. So my question was, we had a resident that expressed a concern and, I invited them to this meeting. And actually I was looking at where they live and I realized their home backs up right to the ridge and it's inaccessible really from the street. They have like a third of a mile driveway. And I was just wondering, if embers did get out of control, how would we protect those homes? Because, it's on the other side of the fence from Jasper Ridge. So is Woodside going to be prepared to go to those homes if the worst case happened? So I'll
I had to get off of Zoom. Okay. So a couple things. I know that Stanford with their staff, that's what they're watching for. They are watching for the amount of production of embers. So should embers become more than desirable and start going into areas that would be of concern, we'll be on standby so that we can respond and go evaluate if there's any kind of danger hazards present. So we have it all mapped out so that we know the addresses that would be the best access. But that's what I guess you could say the fire watch is going to be, is personnel watching out for that. But and that's why they put out the week of March 4th, because it kind of depends on what weather is like. So you can't really put a date, because embers flying is only when there's a production of a lot of fuel burning and wind. So it's not like an ember storm that you would all imagine in a wildfire that's burning. That's not how it would be like having a campfire in your backyard, right? You have a camp, it's not like there's a ton of embers that are just flying all over the place. So if you would imagine it in that way, that's why the time that they're doing it is being chosen at this particular time. But yes, we are, between them and the fire department, everyone will be on standby, prepared for any kind of response if needed.
And I'll tack on to that. Thanks, Kim. The weather component of that is very crucial. We have very specific requirements in our permit with the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, and with our agreements with CAL FIRE and others. We will monitor the weather conditions the day of and call and get a green light to do the burns. And if things change, we adjust accordingly. It's the conditions for the wind are very specific, blowing away from the homes and certain low levels. So all of that's kind of taken into account with whether or not we're allowed to burn on a certain day based on the conditions.
Okay, so I have a question. So, and I may have been distracted trying to figure out the technology, so I apologize if you've already covered this. So we're going to see more controlled burns, not just at Jasper Ridge, but in other areas all over California, because there's a new emphasis on this really important tool. And so it wouldn't be a bad idea right now to talk about how important this tool really is. I know it's kind of scary because we haven't seen it for a lot of years, but it's the future, and maybe you can touch on that. Well, we're almost done, Craig.
I think Stanford, it would be prepared to, because they deal with the health of their property. I think they would be good to be able to answer that, because they're the ones who put the education components together. So
I can take a quick summary answer to that. So one of the things we often do with fuel reduction is that we are rearranging fuels, right? So that there's, like, you can see the middle canopy, the lower canopy, the middle canopy, and the upper canopy, right? And what we're trying to do typically is trying to prevent fire from going into a canopy and becoming a canopy fire. So you remove all that lower vegetation. That's what we do when we create defensible space around our homes, and that's great. And then we remove that material down to the ground. With prescribed burning, with controlled burning, you actually are in a controlled manner burning that fuel that actually would have ecologically already been disturbed and burnt, and you're actually reducing and removing that fuel from the environment, which otherwise would have been burned. So it's that type of benefit that can help to actually remove the fuels from the environment. And then also many of our ecosystems are fire-based, and so that also allows for some opportunities for renewals in the system, which would have naturally historically had those low intensity burns coming in and like cleaning things up once in a while.
Any other questions from the committee? Okay. Do we have any questions from attendees? Oh, I know, I thought Rita's hand was up. But... Yes, go ahead and go to the mic. Thank you. Oh, well, no, you can't go to the mic. I guess you'll have to come over here and just talk over my computer. Yeah, well, we'll get to her. Okay.
Hi, thanks. I'm Sue Epstein. I'm the nearest neighbor to Jasper Ridge. There are burn piles 10 feet from my fence, which I've been assured by Jorge that they will be taken away, which is, I've been observing this preparation since last September. And I've learned a lot about burns since then, and I've spent tens of thousands of dollars preparing and hardening my property for this eventuality. At this very moment, my fire hydrant system is being completely replaced and repaired. But I had a couple of questions for the fire marshal, because as I understand it, Stanford's going to run it, the burn boss is going to run it, you're on call if there's an emergency. How will I know if there's an emergency? I know there's supposed to be night monitors there, but I witnessed the Arrastradero fire, and I was outside during that controlled burn, which I understand might have been an escape. And there were a lot of embers and smoke flying around. I have young children and old people at my home. And I'm just very concerned about how to, if something flies over, there are trees right next to the Jasper Ridge border. I'm afraid they're going to catch on fire. Very concerned about those piles being taken away that are in a dangerous area. I'm assuming you inspected that area and told them to put in a scratch line and to protect me and my property. So how basically, those are my concerns. And perhaps you could address this by saying, as I said, it's been over 10 years since we had a controlled burn in this area. And this is uncommon, I think, to have it in a residential area and this close to homes. Maybe not in Tahoe.
Yeah.
But this is new for us and it's a big deal. I'll stop talking.
No, do you have more? That way I can do all your questions at once.
Well, actually, I was fortunate enough, and thank you, MJ, for inviting me today. I spoke at the town hall committee last week, and Jorge very kindly told me that my questions were the ones that were used for the FAQs. And those are my questions, and mainly, safety and smoke, which and they're sort of linked. Also, to offer my 1/3 of a mile long driveway, which actually, since my house was built to observe Jasper Ridge, honestly, the hillside is my view. So I have a good look at it. Just to, it was built with the driveway so the 2 fire trucks could go back and forth. The town required that. So that, in the event of a fire, I would be safe. So imagine my distress when I found out my fire hydrants didn't work. Mortifying. They will now work by March 1. So I really, am prepared for this, but very nervous about it.
So Sue, thank you again for opening up the conversation, and because I'm sure a lot of the questions that you have are the same felt with all your neighbors around in your area. And it was something back when Jasper Ridge was planning on doing this, we wanted to make sure that we started to prepare, that there was an education component, because it's not usual for our area. It hasn't been done in a long time, but it is done across the country. It is done in residential areas only because so we are in a wild urban interface area, where that means the wildland abuts to residential. So before healthy forest management, there are a lot of places throughout the state and the country that do this for the reasons that Sheena had already spoke to. But as far as being notified, so they'll have crews that are watching, they'll have staff watching through the night. if something were to occur and we respond. So there's a few things. Initially, it would take a long time because of the moisture level that's right now. It would take a while for that fire to really get going in a large enough way to really cause destruction. It would just take some time, and we're so close that we would be able to respond quick enough to be able to start extinguishing. But let's just say hypothetically, forms of notification, if things start to get larger, the SMC alert gets put out to all the neighbors. They also will have sheriffs on duty that'll be doing knocking on every door, starting to evacuate people out of the area. So the normal practices on evacuation is when we're responding to something, because homes are right there, the initial thing is to our fire and sheriff personnel will start evacuating immediately that area that's being affected as they're assessing the level of complexity of where that fire is going. A lot of things are taken into account. We have to look at wind. We start providing structure protection, making sure that, which is why two things important. It's good that you actually brought up the fire hydrants, because with the defensible space inspections that we're going to be doing, one of the things is to identify homeowners that have private hydrants and making sure that they are getting serviced, because that is an important component for us on response, for us to have our source of water should we need it. So anyway, that's usually how the beginning responses go. Then we start going out further depending on how severe a fire gets. Then more resources are called in so that we can evacuate more of the area if needed. And so it's all an assessment. There's really no one answer, but those are the things that we start to do as we start to see how this fire is developing. Sometimes we get vegetation fires every day. They happen all the time, and they're usually extinguished 20-30 minutes of time because of how it's contained. It just takes a while. It's not so much when I give a time, it's not because the fire's so big and it's taking a while. It's more because we're taking measures of the surrounding area to make sure that we're containing it to one area. So it's not an unusual to have brush and vegetation fire. The concern becomes when it's close to a house, is providing that protection first and foremost to those homes and helping you get everybody out. Because you have so many people, you would have us or sheriffs coming to your house and assisting you to evacuate if it came down to that.
Thank you.
Does that answer?
Yes, and I would love to invite you to come and watch the fire with me. I'm concerned about I'm concerned about embers, and I've seen the piles. I've seen this craft paper, which I object to from an aesthetic point of view, but that wood is wet, so I don't know how it's going to burn. I don't know how it's going to smoke, all that sort of thing. The area is very inaccessible. And that's why getting there from my house is probably one of the easiest things, especially for the middle of the pile burns. One of the things you didn't mention earlier is that they're not going to just set them all, 150 of them, on fire.
No.
They're going to do them in sections. And I was really glad to learn that from Jorge, who's been very forthcoming about what's going to happen. I suspect that the ones that are closest to my house are the most difficult to get to and to get water to, unless you use our water and everything. But I guess one other question I would have is, and because I've unfortunately for me had some negative experiences with burning. My friends have lost property. There's been loss of life. So I'm a little bit PTSD about this personally. But that being said, how many days after the burn? I understand this burn's going to last 3 to 5 days. Will I have to be on alert? I've changed all my plans. I will be there. I'm not planning on skipping town while this is going on. I feel the need to be there to watch, to protect my property, as my friends have had to do at Pescadero. And I have great people helping me. I've got water and everything else, but how long am I going to have to wait until I'm pretty sure that this fire is out?
Well, I believe, Sheena, you guys are going to have, is it a few days after? What was your, I believe, for having staff on fire watch? Because usually what they'll do is after it's all done, is they stay watch, see how it's reigniting. I mean, everything is assessed. And once everything seems to be extinguished and everything's been spread back out again, usually that's what when they terminate. But is there any other thing you're doing over there?
That's how it works, is like, as you were mentioning, it's going to be part, like, you're going to do one section at a time. We're actually like lighting every other pile to make sure that we minimize, like, I don't know, just like the heat of the other piles, because we want to actually keep them wet. And we're going to be there until they get extinguished. So it's part of the plan and part of the burn plan, with the burn bus.
So it's not going to be like, as you're envisioning, it's not going to be like days after. It's going to be within that first 24. I can't imagine it going into 48. Usually within the 24, it's pretty much done. That's it. So, but if there is extra concern, staff stay around. They don't leave with questions involved. And usually they saturate the area when they're done anyway.
Correct.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I have to trust that Stanford and our fire department and the burn boss are professionals and experienced in this. And good luck to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I'm glad you got your questions.
Thank you.
Okay, Rita, you have a question?
Yes, and the prior speaker who spoke at the town council meeting last Wednesday really brought it home, because the first notice that we had on it was only about on the PV forum, which is social media, but not everyone receives that social media. And so for communications, the SMC alert does not reach everyone in our lovely town. And those people that are going to be watching for embers, are they going to be there 24/7 until it's done and then some? Or are they going to only be here, like the first 8 hours and then come back after 2 shifts later? I really hope that I thank you, Kim, for Fire Marshal Kim, for giving me a call back the other day. And it really answered a lot of my own questions, because our town, we don't have a safety element and we don't have an evacuation plan yet. So for this to happen at any time before those things are actually in place, it's a little hard for us to swallow, because we care about each other. We love Jasper Ridge, the center, and having that as part of our community, even if we can't get in when we want to. But this is biologically, this is a good thing for the plants, but it is a concern for the citizens of Portola Valley. So I really appreciate you being there today. And I hope this is, it is being recorded. So Jennifer, if there's a way we can really push out a write-up from this meeting so that everyone in town can get it. I appreciate that. But communications is key to all of the residents, and with us losing landlines or having landlines not working and internet not working for many citizens of our lovely town, it's hard. It doubled down on the problems with communication. So perhaps putting up little posters on, over at Roberts Market and the hardware store and a couple other places in town would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. And we will have this meeting on our YouTube. And of course, MJ is taking minutes. And this burn was discussed, I think it was 2 months ago at our meeting, October meeting. So we did get notifications from the fire marshal at that point. Dudley.
Oops. Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I wonder, and maybe this is a question for Sheena, I wonder if there's any possibility of Stanford or the fire district making some kind of video record of this. I mean, in the ideal, it would be from more than one perspective, but at least from somewhere, so that if all goes well, we can show the community what happened and how safe it really was, or why it worked, because everybody in town is going to have these questions. We're going to need burns in other places, and I think it might be a really helpful educational tool to have a visible record of what happens. Thanks.
As always, that is an amazing suggestion. That would be great. Thank you, Dudley.
Absolutely.
I am happy to take this question because this is a lot of what I've been working on through this process. So in addition to all of like the process and procedure documents that have been created just to affect these pile burns and that we will use as templates, for potentially, future projects, or if an adjoining area wants to use those as templates. We are also going to have some of our Stanford News Service team on site, and they will be recording and photographing and journaling everything that goes on during these pile burns, and we'll be publishing a fairly comprehensive article probably in April. And that will cover not just the pile burning as a project, but the wildfire management and fuel reduction perspective of it, the research perspective of it, and the community perspective of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Jennifer,
Yes.
just
Okay.
one follow up to that. I would hope that Stanford will share that publication with the Almanac, the Daily News, anywhere else that might reach people, because not everyone sees Stanford's publications. And the fact that you're doing all that work means that it's ready-made for other resources. So as widespread as it can possibly be made would be terrific. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah, we will definitely be sharing it with local news media and potentially having a couple individuals out on site with us to cover it as well.
And
Great.
to add to that, with our new website that we have, I have been actively working on, so we created a page within the vegetation management tab that is basically news that is going around, whether it's in our area, in our state, that is on particular subject matters. So this would be one of those things that we'd be publishing on there. So I really want to push residents to start utilizing our website and going. We've been keeping up and just posting and putting out a lot of information on our news section, on our calendar, so that everyone's aware of events that are coming around in our whole district. So these are the places that you can also turn to get more information and access resources. And something like this, once Stanford does that, we would certainly post that link and have it available so that people can also refer to our website for that information.
Okay. And if you get it to us, MJ will get it out on a tip, or we can put it in our minutes to the meeting or discuss it in our meeting.
Wonderful.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I'm going to let the Stanford staff leave. Thank you so much. And I really apologize that you had to sit through our technical difficulties. It's always a pleasure to see you. Yes. Thank you so
Ms.
much.
Hammer. We also really appreciate the partnership that we've received from the district and CAL FIRE and all of you. And please, if you have any other questions, that we do have that contact information that we put out in our communication. So we're happy to entertain those. And
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll push this back and then we'll just be both in this picture. Okay, so now we are moving on to the next item in our agenda. And we're going to continue with fire marshal updates. So Kim, do you have anything that is an update that's not related to 2303 or new draft Homer guidelines document or the workshop?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna, but I have a couple of questions for you. And is there any questions from the committee for you that you've been kind of waiting to ask Kim? Okay, go ahead, Ron.
Do I need to turn on my mic?
No, you just have to talk really loud.
Okay. When you were talking about Ember Defense and the two concepts, one of them was they come out and do an inspection and then give you the list of approved stuff.
Right.
But if you've had a fire department inspection, is that duplicating? Do they take fire department inspection? Do you know what the process is?
I can answer because I don't think you haven't had that presentation yet.
No.
This would be for an insurance company
Okay.
that is going to give you insurance. So it would be an inspector that came out and was trained to be able to recommend a house to an insurance company. It's completely separate, completely separate. Okay, I have a couple of quick questions, but I've been holding them for many, many months. So first of all, the website. On the new fire district website, and it is amazing. There is a whole category for transparency. And under that is board minutes and Zoom recordings of the board meetings, which is completely new. So bravo, I love the website. Two, do we have any updates for CAL FIRE fire maps?
Nope, the only update is that there is no date in sight currently. I actually have communication right now with the chief, Chief Daniel Berlant, who is our Office State Fire Marshal Chief, and asking what's kind of the status of that and what's going on. And currently, it's nothing that they really don't have any information on it to provide, other than now that they just finished the state, it's going, the SRA has been completed, and that's in the process for having its completed adoption process to be able to enforce upon. So now that they're pretty much done at the tail end of that, they will start on the LRA, but we don't have a timeline.
Okay, great. All right. So with that, was there any questions for the fire marshal from the attendees?
What is an LRA?
Sorry, so the LRA is the local responsibility area, which is what Woodside Fire is responsible for in our district, whereas the state responsibility area is where CAL FIRE comes in, and that's their area.
I couldn't hear some of what Jennifer was saying. So is this a matter of the reclassification of what fire level risk area we are in Portola Valley?
Correct.
We don't know when this is going to happen. Is that what that?
Correct. So currently, the only mapping that's been completed, and this is again to designate the fire hazard severity zones of the district. Only the state responsibility area has been completed, and those have been published. And the local responsibility area has not been done yet. So where it classifies or, puts everybody in the zone if they're in moderate, high, or very high.
Okay, and is Woodside Fire Protection responsible for doing that local?
We are, so the state does the mapping, and then they provide us with that map. We review the map, and we have the authority to either agree or say, no, we believe, let's just say hypothetical, they're categorizing something that used to be very high, and now they said, no, it's moderate. Well, we can go back and provide, so long as we provide evidence and reasons for saying that this should still remain very high, there's a process for that. Those can still be designated as such. And then CAL FIRE, it's a discussion between the two, then it gets designated as that and it stays as that. And then we have to go through, and once we approve and agree with the map that they have mapped out, well, there's a process that we have to submit that back for accepting that becomes our map.
And you don't know yet when you're going to get that map from them.
Correct.
It's what, a year overdue?
A couple
years overdue.
Actually, it's more than that. It's supposed to be done every 5 years, but it's been over.
Yeah. Okay.
So Kim, someone asked me, that is the fire district, can only raise the rating, or you can't lower it, right?
No, we can only go more restrictive. We cannot go less.
Any other questions for the fire marshal on this topic? Okay, so we're going to move to the agenda item. Continued discussion on draft ordinance 2303, and I had a lovely little presentation to summarize everything, but unfortunately we don't have a screen anymore, but I'm going to use it for my notes. So, and I'm going to have Kim weigh in after I give you an update, but hopefully this will make it go quicker. So the draft version we have of 2303 is being updated in a very minor way, very minor. And it's based on Conservation Committee comments. So what the fire marshal has told me is it's going to have, for example, improved findings of fact and added definitions. And we're going to have that draft for the March meeting. Okay. So the board will have its first reading in about a week on February 27th. So they'll have this new version, this final draft version next week. They'll have a reading, but they will not vote on it for 30 days after that. And that's not a suggestion, that is a fact that we have been given. So we have another 30 days to review it. In March, in our packet, we will have the final version of the 2303 vegetation ordinance that the board will most likely, I'm going to make a guess that they're going to vote on it the week after our March meeting. So my question to you, and so I'm going to stop there. Kim, did I get that right? Is there anything you have to add?
Yes, there is. So just so everybody knows, because I want to maintain our ordinances consistent, though this first originally started last year, we are renaming the ordinance to 2401 because we are in 24 and it's going to be the first ordinance of the year. So we are changing the title. The updates on the ordinance have not just been done, it's also Conservation Committee, the Ladera community, they have a Wildfire Preparedness Committee. They did also formally submit recommendations and proposals for changes. We also received one from Craig Taylor. And we have received others, just small comments from residents. And then out of the workshops, the different questions that I received. So in a compilation of everything, we have made some adjustments and tweaks. A lot of it has been, in some areas, more of a wording change. The Conservation Committee, they did an excellent job with the findings of fact that we felt as a district, it needed updating and changing. It had been that language for so long that it just never really it was never changed. So I was really happy with that recommendation because it really was more true, I feel, to how our district looks. And then we did add definitions already, as Jennifer specified, but those are really, and then some of the language we've also made changes to is, I believe, to make it a little bit more palatable and easier to follow for residents to understand, property owners to understand and follow, and not feel that this is an ordinance that's requiring them to move every living vegetation on their property. So we took into consideration all these different concerns along with, but I will have the draft published. My goal is by Friday, Monday, the latest, on our website. It will be a clean draft version as well as the red line version. So everyone can see all the changes that happened throughout the last couple months. And I'm working on the guidelines. I was hoping to have the guidelines completed by our first reading on Tuesday, but I've been spending so much time on the ordinance that I just haven't been able to. I've been putting it together. So within the next couple weeks, I'll have that guideline out and published on our website as well once it's done as a draft, because our board does have to vote it in order for us to be able to use it as our guideline. So it is going to be voted on as well, and that won't be reviewed until the March meeting. So during the March meeting, we will do the first reading of those guidelines, and then for April, do its adoption. But at least the draft will be out there for people to be able to review. Now, I'll say that the guideline is not an ordinance, though it's referenced by ordinance. So it's not something that we're really going to be taking a lot of comments on. But it's there if, people can make comments and make recommendations as they wish, but it's more of a guideline to help support homeowners with the ordinance. Other than that, everything's good. Thank you.
And I also met with the Ladera committee with Daniel Warren and Camille Guyan. And we also had a letter from somebody from the ranch landscape committee, which I forwarded to Nona and Kim because it had a lot of good comments, and it also encouraged us to work with conservation, which of course we always do. So, before we ask, so do we have any questions up to Kim about the changes of 2303? Okay. So I want to float the idea that for next month, we're going to have the draft ordinance. We're going to probably maybe even have the draft guidelines. Do we want to possibly review in March the ordinance and possibly endorse the ordinance in a memo to the board, which we'd copy the town council? If we were going to do that, I'd put together a memo. I'd probably run it by MJ, and it would be in your agenda packet, and we could, you know, obviously we have to read the final version to make sure we endorse it, and then we could live edit it during the meeting to add any comments or any concerns we might have. So do we want to, Yolanda?
I like the idea of seeing. Yeah. And that's earlier.
Oh, yeah, well, I always send my packages out a week, and I can send you the ordinance the minute it hits. You can have it a month before, and then we'll have it in the agenda packet. Oh, yeah, no, you'll have it done. Yeah, because we'll have 30 days to review it.
Yes, I like.
Okay, so we all want to do that. So what I will do is I will so what I'm thinking about, and we are going to take public discussion on this. If we proceed with this, what I would do is the memo would probably have 3 parts. It'll be an endorsement. It'll be highlighting the transparency of the process, because this process has been very transparent, very well run, very inclusive. We're enormously grateful to the fire district for how they have updated their entire approach to ordinances. And then we would probably include little concerns, or, you know, we need to stay vigilant on conservation and whatnot. And we can, as we read the ordinance and we meet, we can add all that. Okay. So now there is the possibility, so Kim mentioned that she would like to do a workshop on home hardening and defensible space. And her idea was booking the schoolhouse herself. But the staff is really stretched right now. And my thought was, I know you had mentioned March, but I think we need to review this in March. My thought was to what if we just give her our time in April and we host the workshop again in April? Because I would love to attend a home hardening and defensible space workshop, and maybe even have inspectors tell us how they do it. Okay. So would April be okay?
Absolutely. Thank you. We appreciate it.
So we all like that. Okay. So public discussion on what we've just discussed. David.
Oh, sure. First, yay, but 3 quick comments. I think the FAQs or Q&A or whatever you want to call them that Fire Marshal Giuliani did for the ordinance was amazing. I mean, that's one of the best work products. I think I shouldn't say this because we have friends in the fire department, but one of the best work products we've seen out of the fire district. And second, I totally agree. The process is night and day better than it was before. This is so different. I mean, we had, as people may remember, lawsuits and threatened lawsuits not too long ago. And now I think we have a much better environment all in all. On the ordinance, I from what I know, I'm a thumbs up, but I'm not the expert. So I just want to say, great. I think everything's going really well here, and we all need to pitch in to help make our town safer from the various new fire threats that we're facing. Thanks.
Hi. Any other public comments on ordinance 2303? Okay, so are you gonna have so if you can send me also the draft copy. Oh, is there a comment?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, I'm so
Just a
sorry.
quick-
I
just a
thought
quick
you were
comment.
leaving. Okay.
I just want to echo, since I had a Sue Epstein again, home hardening inspection, that it was really a good process. And I just wish that we'd had a lot more notice about the Jasper Ridge fire so that more people and my neighbors could also
Ooh.
home hardened.
Nona?
Yeah, thanks for taking my comment. I just wanted to thank Kim on behalf of the Conservation Subcommittee that provided recommended edits to 2303 or 2401. Kim actually sat down with us and went through every edit and explained why she accepted some and why she didn't accept some. And I think it was a really good partnership. So thanks, Kim. I guess in my, I'm gonna have to leave in a few minutes, but I do have a very brief subcommittee report, which maybe will follow this, or maybe there won't be time till next month.
You can't give it because of the Brown Act.
Okay,
I'm so sorry. I wish.
no worries. Thanks.
But, okay, thank you.
And just to add a little bit to what Sue just brought up. So when this first came to our attention, it was preliminary. And what my hopes is that we would work with Stanford with a calendar of, hey, if you're going to be doing more, it'd be nice if it was going to be every year. And as we move forward, I mean, this is going to be, I don't want to say a trial run, but because it's the first, that way we could give a calendar notice to homeowners so they could say, okay, in March and in November, we're doing these every year or whatever it is. So that is something that is in discussion, and we really couldn't put it out there yet until they knew for sure they were doing it because it was in preliminary. So as much I would have loved to have done even more notice and education in advance until we knew it was happening, and it kind of just, it just came together as it did. So for future, yes, it is something we are definitely looking at, making sure that more notice is given, and even for it to be a calendared event where we say every March this is happening at Jasper Ridge or whatever it's going to be. So we've had discussion with Stanford on future burns as well, because we do I understand that firsthand just with residents and working so much with the community that it is a mental notice of preparing and having time to prepare. So I want to make sure that we always have that consideration for the community. So it is something that definitely that I do look at, and I appreciate that comment because we are working on making sure we do that in the future as well.
Okay. So, and David, do you have another comment, another question? Or is your hand just up?
I have a quick comment about what the fire marshal just said, which is, I think it's hard to put in perspective. This is a huge step for Stanford. They've basically not wanted to remove the dam on the lake. They've not wanted to do any burns because it's a 50+ year vertical study of the habitat. So the fact that they're willing to do the burns is mostly for our benefit. It doesn't benefit them except their lawyers, maybe for liability. So that's my only thought is they're really doing it to make everybody around them safer. So I'm happy they're doing it at all because they didn't used to want to do anything. So thanks.
Okay, and Nona, by the way, I actually did research this with the Brown Act and I found the exact text, and so I don't want to get in trouble. So that's why I'm being really cautious. Okay, so I'm going to write up the memo. I'm going to send it to MJ. We'll work on it so that we don't have to do it at the last minute. Okay. So I'm going to close this agenda topic. So my finance and insurance subcommittee update is done. And we don't have our conservation liaison, unfortunately, because I'm sure it would have been a wonderful update. I think in the future, if you sent me an email with the update, I think I can read an email status report, maybe. Yeah, but I just can't have her give a report. And then anything from the mitigation subcommittee.
You have something.
last meeting we talked about, did I give you a copy?
Well, I can't look at it because we didn't put it in the agenda topic, so I can't look at
No,
anything.
this is my update, the mitigation committee update. This is part of the committee, subcommittee update.
I know, but we can't look at it unless you put it on the screen.
Oh, yeah, I'll put it on this. Well, it's hard for me to do two things at the same time. So let me just say that, can everybody hear me out? I'll get a
Here,
little
I'll do
closer.
this.
No, I'll share it. I'll share it after this, maybe. I just want to say that I got the data from Chip Swan. And so right now we have, because Joyce Sheffrin got her neighborhood approved. So we now have 251 homes, which I figure is about 14% of the town. Now, it turns out there's 4 other neighborhoods, Brookside, West Ridge Prep, Woodside Highlands, and Grove Drive that are in process. That would be 800 more homes. And then there's one other.
Of becoming Firewise.
Of becoming Firewise, sorry. And then there's one more community, Blue Oaks, that has expressed an interest. So if all of those came to fruition, that would be 61% of Portola Valley. And I'm just thinking, maybe what we need to do as a committee or subcommittee is maybe try to help speed this up. I don't know. I know I'm part of the Westridge Press Group, and I think we applied like 9 months ago or something. So maybe that's an area we've talked about. How do we get more people on Firewise? If we can get these 6 groups.
Well, we were
approved?
told in the past that
Yeah.
that was not something we could help with, that because that was the fire district felt they had that under control. But if the fire district would like us to help, if there's any way we can help, that has been a subject matter for, we even talked about doing projects within the Firewise committee. So
I would love to comment on that. So I'm not I can't speak for the past. What I can say is I think any community and involvement from anybody to help through the process is more than welcomed. The only thing that the fire district does as part of the process is assess the houses once they're ready. So the application, building their board for that community, all that stuff, all the preliminary things that go on, that's on residents and community. So I think the more support community members have in going through the process, the more it's going to help them. The other big thing is the people who are going through it right now. So it is a long process, and it's not because of people not getting what they need to done. It's 2 things. It's one, they are overwhelmed right now at Firewise to get all these communities, which is a good sign, right? It means a lot of people are active. So what they're doing is they won't even review the whole application. Once they see that something did not pass or doesn't meet their standard, they kick it back, and that's just how they're getting it done quicker. And then you have to go back, fix whatever it is, resubmit it again. Then they'll keep working down the line, find something they don't expect, they'll kick it back, you take it in, fix it. So a lot of these communities, that's why it's taking them a while, because they submit, they get it back, they submit, they get it back, till finally the whole thing is complete, approved. Where we come into the process is you get to a certain point where you're fine, your house, your community is ready, or your neighborhood or whatever it is. We come through, we assess all the different houses, making sure it meets the criteria that Firewise puts out. It's a specific template of a checklist that we have to account for. And then we add that as part of the submittal package altogether for the application. That's pretty much all the fire district does as far as the application. With the fireside program that we're using to do everyone's defensible space inspections, the great thing with that is twofold. The first thing is, now that we are going to be, I want to say, now that we have the staffing to be able to hit all the parcels in a 3-year period, now we're going to start collecting all the data and information that you would need to become Firewise. And the template is built into Fireside for us, so that if you do become a community who wants to be, we already have that data. So we don't have to come through and reassess if we've already done that community. We can just incorporate that as part of your process. And then once you do become Firewise, after I think it's once every 3 years, you have to recertify. I can't remember, it's 3 or it is 3, right?
It's 3.
it is set up in Fireside already to be able to recertify that community. And we have a separate area that is so now we're tracking all our Firewise communities so that we have a district map that, highlights those communities, how many homes are in that community. So we're getting a lot of statistics and data now. And we'll be able to also even be able to see over time these Firewise communities. Let's say 70% of them still had 30% of them still have wood siding. We'd be able to see over time through the trend that those are being fixed and it's capturing all that data. So we can filter all that information and know, okay, this community is now, 90% of the way there, or, whatever it is, so it's going to be great moving into, but my answer is all help that people can get to become Firewise, please.
Okay. So Chip Swan is like the volunteer coordinator for Firewise, and I know that he has, I think it's monthly chats. And he's like the expert on the website and moves everybody through. So you have to be very careful how you help is really helping, because he's got his umbrella set up and there is a procedure to do. I'm wondering, do you want to set up some kind of agenda item where we have Chip and maybe Patty, who set up Westridge, and a couple of people that have set up Portola Valley, to see where we might have helped or how we can help? Or is it just education or getting the word out? Because from talking to Chip, he would say, just send me the people. If we get the word out, which we have tried with our wildfire fairs, that would help. I also have offered to have, I've offered D because part of the problem was when you walk the community, you have to be able to identify the type of roofs and whatever, and that can be a bit daunting. I've offered your help because I know that you would say yes. So how do we proceed to find out how we can help?
I think it's a great idea. No, I think it's great. I think bringing Chip in and other people who are already Firewise and using them as a resource and saying, what can we do to help? I think that's a good way to start, because Chip does have he is dialed with that. He's got his thing set up. And so
this is mitigation. So why don't you, MJ and D, why don't you guys figure out how you want to do this, how we can help, how you can help, whatever I can do, I can help. Do you want to have it as part of an agenda? Do you want to meet with Chip separately? Do you want to dig around?
We'll keep working.
I love the idea of helping Firewise. I'd love the whole town to be Firewise. A lot of grant money opportunities of Firewise.
Yep.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes.
So if you're a community that wants to become Firewise.
Yes.
And what my question was going to be, was who is the best, who's done this most effectively? So who would I talk to? It sounds like your answer would be that I talked to Chip if I knew his last name.
Chip Swan, I can get you I'm also happy to talk to you to tell you what to expect and then get you connected to Chip.
Okay.
Yes, if you want to be a Firewise community, yes, absolutely. We want that to happen. So you know my email address, right? You know how to contact me. I'll get you in touch with Chip.
Yeah,
Anything else?
I was just enamored with the idea of having 61 person.
I'm shocked.
But I think, I haven't discussed this with the, so we'll talk it out and figure out what we want to do.
The fair plan now, 10%, or I think they sued. I don't think they're actually giving. Yeah. So part of the new regulation was that fair plan also had to give you 10% off your insurance, and then the insurance company has sued to stop that. Well, because they're already giving the discount. So I'm not sure if that's enacted yet, but most insurance companies 10% discount. Okay, anything else? So you'll report on that next month, or tell me if you want to put something on the agenda item for the March meeting, because all we have, so next is agenda for next month. All we have right now is approval of 2303 or 20. I'm gonna forget that.
That's why I wanted to do that. I think
What?
people will forget the old and take the new.
Let us hope so. Okay. So anything else for the agenda for next month? Okay, quorum check, are we all gonna be here?
Yes.
And I don't know about Nona, she might be with that beautiful new grandchild. Okay, so our next meeting is March 20th. Thank you, Kim, for doing this. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us with all the technical issues.
Thank you.